So, just what I was saying there was that I believe that every cell of your brain and your body can be changed for the better. That no matter what conditions you've got, no matter what difficulties you're facing right now, whatever possibilities you are excluded from because of something that happened to you, or because of some fear or anxiety or stress that you've had, some condition that you've picked up or that you have taken on, I believe that it's possible to restore your body to full health and to bring back your mind to a better way of functioning. And I believe that every single cell in your body has the capacity to restore itself if you give it the right food, if you give it the right conditions, if you allow it the freedom to be the full potential that it has. Parts of the brain, parts of the body are capable of regenerating themselves. They do every single week, every single month, every single year. The new generations of the same cell are made. And while the individual cell may be cast off and broken down and the components all flushed out of your body, the memory and the information from that cell is created in once again, and it is going through a whole birth and rebirth, birth and rebirth, birth and rebirth. And every time that there's a birth and rebirth, it is possible to improve the quality of the cell rather than have the aging process which we have accepted as a fact. I believe that it's possible to actually have a regeneration process where you can regenerate better health, better strength, better power, better memory, better connectivity, better communication within your brain and within your body that will allow you to move forward with higher functioning. And I believe that the whole area of epigenetics is proof of this, because if your body wasn't able to adjust and wasn't able to adapt to the circumstances around you, then we would have all died off in the last ice age. Certainly. I thought when you did this that you wanted me to stop.
Well, I think it had come to that end of that little piece. But what I'd like to interject, if I may, is the point where the sense of self comes in and the belief around the sense of self. So I can only talk about what's arising within me, is where I can see I might have a desire to express myself, and there's a belief or a internal wall that makes it very difficult for me to express myself or to have a desire. Or, I mean, everyone's going to have their own relationship to how they are in the world with themselves and how they want what they want and are wanting what we allow ourselves to want, and to break the limitations on what that expression of desire and want is within life itself. Because we could function very well, the body could really upgrade quite a bit, but if the psyche doesn't upgrade with it, it's going to fall back down again. So there has to be the desire, there has to be the invitation for the imagination to be broader than it is, so it's taking the blinkers off from the conditioning to really see where we are stopping ourselves from allowing this as a possibility even. And I know your work is absolutely key to this, as is mine, and it's being able to just push the curtains aside, if you will. It's just pushing it aside and really being able to allow those difficult feelings to arise, so that realization, that next step towards moving forward is available, and we need to make it available in some way, so the body has to relax, the mind has to relax in such a way that we can see that anything is possible. It's a bit like the little girl, what's she called? Not Matilda, in the French story, I can do anything, I can do anything. It's that sort of finding a new entrainment or a new possibility of removing those old entrainments, that you can only do it like this, or it's restricted. It's actually more sky thinking, really, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. So the biggest limitation that we have is our belief of what is possible. So often people come to me and they say, oh, sure, I've had this pain for 20 years. And I say, well, how long do you think will it take to get rid of it? Oh, I suppose it'll take 6 months anyway. And I say, right. And we work and we do the work that needs to be done, and they walk out of the place with no pain. And I say, how you told me it was going to take 6 months, but we're finished today, and your pain is gone. Oh. And they can't cope with that. So 3 days later, their pain is back. And they're back on the phone and they're saying your thing didn't work. I'm saying it did work. It worked for 3 days. But your belief system broke down the healing that had been taking place, and as a consequence, you are back in pain because you couldn't adjust your belief system fast enough to accommodate the change that had taken place. So I believe that there's a need for us within ourselves to adjust that belief system, and it's why I use visualizations all the time to make the changes first, and then the healing takes place. Because while we do physical activities, they simply prepare the ground, doing the physical activities, calming the body, calming the mind. Then we do the visualization, and after that, it is then that the healing takes place internally at the deepest levels, and it works its way up to the surface. So the healing may appear on the surface very quickly, or it may appear over the next few days, but it is coming from the inside out. That's not the case. Well, that used to be the case when I was working with people on a physical level, working on their back or their legs or whatever it was that was in pain. But now that is my approach, and it always works. Because
that's beautiful.
Yeah. Back on this now. Right. So say that again.
I'm getting a sense of the word suffering is coming up, and because of various teachings that we've all absorbed over the many hundreds of years of different teachings being on the planet, that something about suffering is, and this has been going on for generations, that suffering is at the core of our life experience, that somewhere in there we have to suffer, because life is suffering. And the Buddhists teach it in a different way. They recognize that there is suffering, and that through all the different elements that come, whether it's hurricanes or tsunamis or whatever it is, and the suffering of our connection to others. And there's been religiosity that actually we're born in sin. If we can unlock the fact that we have to suffer in order to live, and realize that, and this is in my own psyche, because we all believe something that's not true, that there's some part of us that's bad or evil or wicked or naughty, and we actually don't deserve to be happy. Somewhere it's been in our grandmothers and great grandmothers. Like I said at the beginning of this, feeling into the fact that the largest cell in the human body is actually the ovum, and the transmission of those belief systems is quite a big ask to get people to really challenge what's been handed down through the genetic composition, the cellular understanding. It's not that it can't be done. I know it can be done. I don't think we'd be having this conversation if there's some part of us that knows that we're lifting the veil on this very heavy belief system. It's like one of those dark clouds that sits over everybody's head. We're sharing it as a collective and as an individual. And what part of it is true? So we have to really look into the truth of that within our own psyches, within our own minds. What is true about that sensation that we've felt, we don't know where it came from, and what have we made of that sensation? And then we've heard things, and then we've made a belief out of it, and that's when you can take the thorn out of your finger and go, that was a thorn that was put into you and that's not of you, or something in that way. I see a sword being taken out, or a dagger being taken out that has been put into the human psyche, and it's a poisonous dagger, and it's not true. And how it got there, I don't know. But that's sort of, okay, we're in a metaphorical place here, and I need to take it out of myself as much as help others take it out of them. Let's just take that out. And what happens? There's more peace, there's relaxation, there's space.
Well, I think what actually happens, like that, is just what you're saying, is that people experience freedom. And the true freedom is the freedom to be your full self. And you can be your full self physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually once you move beyond the confines that were passed down to you. Every generation passes on the information that they have with the best intention. But right now, we are going through such a revolution of society, a revolution of belief systems, a revolution of ideas, a revolution of evolution within ourselves, that I believe that many of the guidances that we were given, many of the pieces of information that we were given and we took on as beliefs, as facts, are no longer relevant for the life that we're living. And because of that, we need to transcend the formative milieu. We need to transcend the ideas that were given to us to protect us and to guide us and to steer us in the right direction. And we need to actually figure out for ourselves what it is that is most appropriate for us, what it is that will help us to be our full selves, what will allow us to move into a healthy, peaceful, happy and comfortable state of body and mind, so that we can be spiritually at peace, emotionally at peace, physically at peace and mentally at peace. Now, what I see what we're doing in terms of imagery or metaphors, what we're doing is we're peeling off an old shell that was there, that was given to us by our parents, our grandparents, and our great-great-grandparents, and all the way back along the line, to protect us, to guide us, and to steer us in the right direction, so that we could have the kind of life that they hoped that we would have, full of peace and happiness, etc. And that was grand while things were static. But everything has revolutionized, everything has so changed in the last 10, 20 years. And even in the last 1 year, everything has changed so much that many of the old ideals, many of the old principles that we were living by no longer apply. And what we need to be doing now is creating a new shell for ourselves. And instead of being a rigid, hard shell, we need a soft shell that is flexible, pliable and adaptable, and that can accommodate the life that we live today. Yes, go on.
Well, this shell, we're calling it a shell, but it's sort of like an energetic membrane of a quality of light. A quality of light. I mean, the yogis talk about the koshas, and they are part of the information field that we are involved in throughout the solar system. And we have a unique one to ourselves, and we have a unique, and it's within the whole and everyone else, and they're all interconnected. But what we're doing, as far as I can understand, is we're reinforming that membrane with more updated information energetically. Before, as you mentioned, our grandchildren, our grandparents, they had particular life conditions, and then they had particular views on their life conditions, and of course they've always wanted that their descendants should thrive and do well according to their experiences, and their experiences are not applicable to our experiences. So what we are doing is really reformulating the way we experience life to be more, as you say, more flexible, more informed. We have more information now available than we ever have, as far as we can say. And it's also energetic information as well as factual information. And this can allow us not to be so defended, but we can still move a little bit more fluidly within the energy life streams of everybody else's, because we aren't stuck in a place like a stone that's stuck in the ground that can't move. We are actually much more liquid in our capacity to navigate and negotiate life through the right energetics, a light-born energetic. So we're not moving through a dark age, we're introducing a light age. So it's amplifying our inner divinity. I hate to have to say that word, but it's a word that we understand. Our inner light being, realizing that we are actually made of stardust ourselves, and not just a product of our families and the stories that they've lived. That's really, I'm probably not this way I'd like to, but in the end, this membrane becomes pearly and it sparkles, as opposed to like a shiny piece of armor. This is much more moving, but it's also supporting the life it's emanating from, and reflecting back a higher vibrational exchange with other people and other animals on the planet, and the planet herself and the solar system. It becomes we become more integrated throughout our life streams and our bodies and our energy fields and everything. And we see ourselves more as light rather than as a solid lump of two-legged bag of flesh, really. It becomes something much more, but we couldn't have imagined it before. Not on this scale. We could never have imagined it before. Some might have done, but now we can really see that this is where this interconnectedness with our energy field and our sense of being becomes much more streamlined. Beautiful. So we walk the beauty way instead of the clumpy way that we have been before, with hobnail boots and crunch, crunch, crunch and weapons. We don't have to do that anymore. Our weapons are love and integration and respect and integrity. That's a revolution all on its own. Beautiful. That's sort of how I see it.